Hello there, right here, and in this video I will be showing you guys how to build up this simple, infinitely automatic Azalea tree farm, meaning that this tree farm can run all on its own unlimited amount of times without needing any player maintenance. It's also playerless, meaning that the tree will self-plant its own saplings. There's also the option to run it with or without a TNT duper, and with or without a bone meal farm. I specifically designed this tree farm to be simple while being infinitely automatic, and it's based off of my previous infinitely automatic wood farms. As part of my Farm Everything series, we are trying to create a farm to farm up every single item in the game of Minecraft. And we are over 90% of the way there. You can check out the entire progress with this document, which is linked down below, and you can see exactly how to farm up everything in a video with each of the farms. So you can become the ultimate Minecrafter with all this automation. So hit that like button and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on this journey, as well as have that bell turned on. As always, make sure you watch this entire video before building it up. But let's get into the tutorial and I'll explain more about the farm and different components of it as we build. Now, before you build the farm, you want to choose the proper location. I would recommend building it inside of your spawn chunks, especially on a server where they are loaded pretty much all the time as long as the server is online. Otherwise, you can build this in your base as long as it's being loaded by a player. It will continue to work, and if you unload it, it will just stop working. And it should work once again once you have it loaded. So first off, we're going to build the bottom part, which is the same on the TNT version as well as the TNT duper version. So at the end, you can decide what top to place in. I will be showing the TNT duping part. First off, you want to turn on chunk view. And you can do this by pressing F3 plus G at the same time. This will show the chunk borders. We're going to build this entire farm pretty much inside of one chunk so that it's either loaded or not loaded. Then from here, we're going to start almost in the very center of the chunk. This is chunk coordinate 8, 8. And you can see that right here on the top left-hand side. It says 8, 12, 8. 8, 8 is the block within the chunk. And we place down our first block here. And then we're going to place in our chest, which are going to be right like this. They're going to place a hopper going into those. Continue this bottom piece. This is going to be the water collection for the items. And we'll use gravity to bring all the items to the very bottom. And we're going to start building this from the bottom upwards. Now we're going to continue this by placing a block over here and a scaffolding block there. We're going to have an observer pointing inwards with a block in front of it, and then a note block on the back side of it. Then we're going to have a scaffolding block on this one and a block over here. You can use any building block that you want to, as long as it shares similar properties as like stone. So on the next layer, we're going to place in redstone there, and we're going to bring this up the block there. We're going to have a dispenser pointing upwards right here. We're going to have a hopper pointing into that. We're going to have redstone on top of the note block. And we're going to have a block right here. We're then going to encase this lower area that we made. And this is going to hold in the water. Make sure you have some transparent blocks here. So you can open the chest up. And then we can place in some blocks all around here. We also place in a block right here. And then on this side, we place a block here and here. And a redstone block at the same level as the chest. And we place redstone dust on top of that. Over here, we place a block on this side as well as here with redstone on top of all this. Now we come in with a torch on that side. Now we come in with a lever on the side of this torch and we power it. This is going to be your on and off switch for the entire farm. Then on this side, we go over like this. And from here, we have another set of redstone that goes this way. Then it goes this way. First 4, and then we got a total of 10 on this side. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then we go 2 more. Then we go total 8 on this side. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then we go 4 on this side. 4. Then we go 5 on this side. 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we go inwards 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we should end up with just a 1 gap right there, like this. So this is a second to bottom layer, and all we have to do is place in the water right there. So we start with the third layer by placing a moss block above the dispenser and placing 2 blocks in front of it, a dropper on the back side of the moss pointing this direction, and a hopper pointing into that with a redstone dust behind it. Then we're going to have blocks here and on this side, and here as well as here, with a sign on this side where we can then place in water right there. This block here does need to be a transparent block because the next piece of redstone goes right there. And we have another block over here with it continuing over on this side. It goes all the way across all of this and 2 more on that side. This hopper here continues going this direction, and then from here it goes this direction, a total of 4 like that. Then we have a block here with a repeater here and a block there. Then we have redstone on top of all of that. Then we encase this water like so. Then we place in a normal piston here with a block in front of that, and a block over here with a normal piston. Then we place a sticky piston on top of that redstone with an observer pointing straight out of it. And that's going to go into a block, and it's going to have redstone right here, and we're going to have a repeater folded leg going that direction. Then we're going to bring the redstone total of 4. That's going to go into a block, which is going to a repeater on 2 delay. It's going to a block, and then we're going to have repeaters along this entire thing, all on full delay, with the blocks in the corner. And we're just going to repeat this along the entire path of the prior laid blocks. Okay, and now we come in and place the blocks into the corners of that, so it looks like this. Now we're going to come in and place in a lever on the backside of this piston. And this is to reset the farm in case the farm redstone isn't working. We're going to also place a sticky piston facing upwards on this block. And this is for turning on and off the clock. And we can place our observer facing that direction on top of it. And over on the side of this piston, we're going to have a sticky piston facing upwards with a block on top. So all these repeaters here are just to create delay, so the machine turns off while the TNT is removing the tree. So this is the majority of the third layer, and it is the hardest part of it. So you're pretty much done with all the hard parts. And this is what it looks like from above. So now with the fourth layer, we'll place in a block right there. And then we'll have repeaters going out of that on full delay. And going into this block, we'll have another block here with redstone there. And with this one on 2 delay. And then we'll have another one here on full delay, redstone there, and we'll have a block there with a comparator here with it right clicked, so this little light is turned on. This is going to be the main clock that will be used to power the system. That will come in and place in composters above these hoppers, except for that last one. This is to prevent the hoppers from checking above them, which reduces lag. This hopper system is going to be used to feed bone meal to the dispenser that we placed down here. Then we're going to place in a dropper just going upwards from this block here, and then we're going to have a dispenser pointing inwards on top of that, and we're going to bring hopper line pointing into that dropper, and then over here on top of this pointing into that hopper. Now we'll have a moss block right in front of that dropper so the dispenser can bone meal anything on top of it. Then we're going to come in and place blocks over here and a piston on top of this dropper facing inwards like so. We're going to continue this redstone up into this block, and then we're going to encase the sides of this water here, just like that. We're going to come in with an observer that's pointing downwards onto this piston right here, aim right in the corner like that, and it points like there. Now we're going to have a redstone piece on top of that, and we're going to have a block right there, and a block right over top of that. Then on this side over here where we have this block, we have a trapdoor on the top of it. And then we're going to have scaffolding here as well as here. This is going to be the system that sends a signal up to the TNT to tell it to go off. And then we're going to come back over to this hopper system over here, and we're going to continue this all the way to the outside, which is right here. And this is where the bone meal will be placed into the farm. And now you guys have completed the fourth layer, and all the redstone components should work. So if we just go ahead and flip this lever here, this clock should work over here. Now there's only a little bit more redstone to finish the entire bottom piece off. So the next layer is going to consist of mostly blocks being placed to contain the water system. This water system is going to be used to bring all the items to this center collection system. So we're going to place a block above that piston, another piston over here. We're going to place 2 top slabs along there. We're then going to place in droppers above all of this hopper line just to reduce lag. And we're not using compost here because items could fall into that little divot. So now we'll come in with blocks here and here. And we'll have observers pointing into this dispenser and dropper. And on the backside, we're going to have a note block, and then we're going to have an observer pointing into the note block. And by turning this switch on, we're going to turn on the clock, which is going to power the bone mill over here, and that's going to grow up our tree. And the note block won't make music once we place some water over top of it. In the meantime, you can just turn it back off again. So on this side note block, we'll have a block there. Then we'll have a piston facing this direction. Then we'll have a block here and an immovable block on this side. That is a full cube, so like furnace or obsidian. Then we'll have 4 more blocks along this side, and we'll have another immovable block right there. Now going back to the centerpiece here, we're going to have a note block on top of our clock, and then we're going to have an observer pointing away from it into this block right here. So this is the last bits of the bottom redstone. Now we just have to fill in the rest of this in order to make a big large area to collect all the items off of the tree. So we're going to do this by starting over here where we have the droppers. We're just going to place in a block there, and then we're just going to stair step it across this entire thing until we get to the other side. Now we're going to go 5 over, so 3, 4, 5, and now we're going to stair step it back this direction until we reach the chunk border right here. And now we're going to go across a total of 5 again, and then we're going to stair step it the other direction just like so. Now we're going to go back to the dropper side, and we're going to do 3 blocks onto that. Then we're going to stair step it across to the opposite side. Then we're going to go a total of 5 across, just like so. Now we go out 1 more, just like this, and we can start filling in everything that is inside of this kind of diamond-shaped area. So on this side, we just leave this not filled in, and then we can continue on. On this quadrant, we leave that open for that piston to move that piece in. And then this last quadrant, we can fill all except for that hole right there. And that's what it should look like at the end of it. Now we can come in and place in the walls to hold the water in. Place some slabs on top of that chest there. Place in some blocks. Then we go upwards with them. Then we go the other direction 4. Then we fill this bottom section in with a kind of triangle piece right in here. And then we continue our wall over to the next quadrant, which is very similar, where we fill in this triangle elevated piece in the corner here. And then we have walls that go around that piece just a little bit higher, so we keep the water inside. And then we continue this all the way around the entire thing. Until we end up back here once again. So this is what it looks like now. The triangles in each corner are a little bit different. These 2 opposite side ones are the same, and these 2 opposite side ones are the same. This is to get the water to flow in a very particular way, which took a lot of testing in order for the water to make it right up to these holes but not go inside of them. So we place water in each of these corners. Before we place in that water, we do want to come in and place in some logs. We'll just fill this in like this, as well as right there and right there. And now we can place in the last 2 water, so that water will flow across all of that. And this one will flow the rest and fill the rest in, and then we can remove that block as well as that one now. So now it looks just like that, which is perfect. So last thing we have to do is just put in the TNT part, and I'll be showing you guys the TNT duper part. So first off, we gotta go back to the scaffolding here. We gotta place in a total of 21 scaffolding going upwards. So I just placed 20 in my inventory. And if you just click on the top of the bottom scaffolding, you'll be able to place all 20 of them in, and that will be the perfect height Now at the top, we'll place in a block there and an observer right there. And we're building this towards the center of the water. And then we'll come in with blocks along this. And a block here. And then we'll go this direction, a total of 3 with a block on top. Put a block here like this. With 6 more blocks on the end of that, putting us over top of this. Now we'll come in and fill this in with repeaters on full delay, like so. And now we'll come in with redstone across there and a 2 delay repeater right there. Now we're going to come in and build the TNT dupers. If you're playing on a modded server, they may have TNT duping disabled. Otherwise, if you're playing vanilla, then it should work. So we come down like this, make a sideways T, then here and here. That dead coral of any type that's a fan right there. Detector rail facing this direction and a gate facing in like that. Then we have a wall right in front of there with a minecart on top of that. Then on the side of this block, we're going to place in 3 blocks along that side. Then on over here, we're going to place a block right there, as well as one underneath of it. Then just kitty corner of that, we're going to place in 2 powder snow. And if you want to, you can place in some safety powder snow in case you accidentally update the TNT so it doesn't fall into the center of the farm and blow up. And that's just putting 2 powder snow like that. Now we'll finish it off by placing in a TNT right there. Now if you go ahead and power this and then depower it, it should duplicate TNT, should also align it and then drop it right there perfectly. If the TNT doesn't work, you're playing on some modded server. So now we can do the same thing to this one over here, where it's just going to be mirrored. So sideways T shape, there and there. Dead coral fan there, gate right there, rail, that's a detector, and a wall in front of that, and a minecart on top of that. Our blocks on this side as well as over here. And our powder snow there as well as there. And then of course you could come in with your safety one if you want to, here and there. And then lastly, we can place in our TNT. And once again, we can give this a try by powering it from over here. And power that. And it's also going to power this one. I should align it and drop it just like so. Now notice that the TNT will eventually actually be able to destroy right through the corner of this water here and knock out these 2 blocks, the one that was here as well as the one that was here. So you might as well just remove them and then come in and place in blocks below them. Same thing will happen on this side. This block and this block will get destroyed. So just remove them and place in blocks underneath of them. As long as the water still reaches the center, you don't actually need those blocks anymore. If you don't want the TNT dupers, you can also come in and build it at this part, which just uses dispensers and TNT to blow up the tree. Another option is also the bone meal system. This is my simple moss farm, which produces a lot of bone meal, and I made it a tileable design, which I will be showing in a second video. You can check out this device as well as the TNT device with the world download, and I also provided the schematics in the description. So let's go ahead and turn it on and watch it work. So the first thing we need to do is put in some bone meal. If you don't have attached to a bone meal farm, that will go right here in this chest. And we also want to make sure that this block is in the right location. So it's to be on that side, and that's what we have that lever for. And to get it started, we'll also just place in some bone meal into this dispenser. We first need to start this clock here. So we can go ahead and click that. That's going to power the top part. And then we come on over here to this lever, and that will turn on the second clock, which is the main one that will bone meal the moss in hopes that we get an azalea. So the setup is just like my other azalea tree farms, where we initially bone meal this moss block down here, and that will try to place vegetation on nearby blocks, including this moss block up here. So there's a chance that it can produce a few different things, including grass, it can produce azalea, flowering azalea, also moss carpet can be placed on top of it. Every time it produces a flowering azalea up here, we then are going to bone meal it with this dispenser, which will grow it up. And then once it grows up, it's going to be a tree. That's going to activate another system, which is going to drop the TNT down, and it's going to remove the majority of it. And this will give us all the different items from the farm. And every hour it produces about this many items, which is around 1,100 logs, 700 carpets, 600 azalea bushes, 200 flowering azalea bushes, 400 sticks, and 200 wheat seeds. And if you want to, you can take the extra vegetation from this chest and you can also bone meal that down for more bone meal. But it's better to just build a separate moss farm to produce all the bone meal you need. Every time it does grow one, it's going to use one bone meal down here, and then it's also going to use bone meal whenever producing the trees. On average, it takes about 2.2 bone meal to grow a sapling into a tree, but we let it bone meal a bit more just in case it can take a little bit more bone meal. And even if this produces 2 trees right after each other, the machine automatically can fix itself and unplug. The only place it wastes bone meal is if it gets a grass block here that isn't a tall one already, then it'll just grow it up from a little one to a tall one, just using one more bone meal. Now if you want to, you can detect if there's azalea there because of its square top. But that system makes it a bit more complicated, so I decided to keep it simple and just lose a little bit of bone meal, but overall the system is much faster. You also can see how the log system works. When a tree grows in, it's going to push the new log into this space over here, and then it's also going to push up the old log up in the air. This will let the TNT that comes down remove this log. After it's removed, it's going to close up this hole so no items can fall in there, and then it's also going to open this hole back up for the next one. That way there's no area for items to accidentally get stuck. All of them will get eventually pushed over here to the center. Even items that kind of get stuck between these two water systems, they'll get pushed out of it as soon as the next tree grows. And then all the items will fall down these 2 holes on either side. If any items fall down the hole with the piston, they can end up getting squished out the side where the moss is. As you see there, the items get squished out, and then the water systems we put in before just collect everything into this hopper and down into this chest. And that's where you go to grab your items. Now the redstone underneath does a few different things besides we have the 2 clocks that operate the 2 different components. The main brains of the machine is just this blocking push back and forth, and it compacted down so it actually operates 4 different parts of the machine just with this centerpiece here. One thing it does is it will come over here and will lock this dropper and dispenser, as well as lock this hopper so the bone meal can go into both dispensers equally. Locking this dispenser will prevent the game from constantly trying to bone meal any small grass that happens to grow in this area right here, as there is a bug that the game will try to use up bone meal even though the grass can't grow. Made a bug report for it, so hopefully that gets fixed. But with this system, we don't lose any bone meal to that. The T flip-flop system also goes over here, which operates the on and off for this clock. We turn this clock off while the tree is being blown up. And the system also comes over here to this redstone piece, which is the redstone that goes up to the TNT and drops it, and also goes onward to reset the system, as well as operate the piston pushing up here. So it's kind of all being operated from a single device, and that is being run by every time a new tree comes in, it gets pushed over, and the pushing of this log is being read by this observer, and that's what activates the entire system. It lets you know that we have a new tree. So the entire farm is compact and quite simple and easy to build up as well as use. The downside to simplicity is that I'm only running a single azalea tree from the center, unlike my nether tree farm where I run about 5 of them, which makes that farm on its own self-sustained. I will eventually probably make a self-sustained one, but it's not going to be as simple as this one. It does use about 1 double chest of bone meal per hour. That's why I recommend hooking it up to a bone meal farm so you don't have to worry about refilling it. Otherwise, you can use like my AFK fish farm or my wither skeleton farm to get tons of bones to supply this farm. For more simple Minecraft farms, check out this playlist here and click on this playlist over here to learn about crazy tricks I discovered while playing the game for 12 years. And if you enjoyed this tutorial, be sure to leave a like. Check out my live streams every Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern to see exactly how I design these farms from scratch. And if you ever need help with my farms, you can always ask in my Discord, links below. I'd like to thank you guys all for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye!